Hey everybody, Dom here.
Today I'd like to talk about a video game that's in development called Tricky Madness. This game is like a modern reimagining of classic arcade-style extreme sports snowboarding games, such as the games in the SSX and 1080 franchises. I have incredible nostalgia for SSX. In my younger years I'd play SSX 3 and SSX on tour for hours and hours on my GameCube, and then later on my Wii, because backwards compatibility is a thing. I absolutely love these classic games, so much so that I'm emulating SSX 3 right now, and that's the footage you're seeing. Anyways, I just want to establish this information so that you know where I'm coming from when I say that I'm really hyped for Tricky Madness. On January 5th, the Kickstarter for Tricky Madness launched. With it, a demo dropped. Gameplay footage of this demo is what you're seeing on screen. The demo is very bare bones. There's one character, one course, and no music. You never really realize how important music is to a game like this. Let me tell you, it is. The silence is deafening. That said, this and other faults can be excused. The game is still really early in development and the demo reflects that. The full game is set to release in winter 2025, so there's plenty of time to fix all the problems. Tricky Madness has some interesting ideas that change up the arcade-style snowboarding formula. For example, the way the trick system is tied to the speed boost system. Performing tricks doesn't fill up a boost meter like in SSX, but rather gives an immediate temporary speed boost. The potency of the speed boost depends on how many points were granted by the trick. The higher the points, the better. The result of this system is that there's more of an emphasis on stringing tricks together in order to go as fast as possible. It's kind of like chaining drifts together in kart racing games. You continuously play an active role in making sure that you go fast. Another thing that differentiates the game is the way the advanced tricks are performed. For the most part, the trick system works like SSX. Successfully performing simple tricks spells out the word tricky on screen. Once the word is spelled out completely, it's possible to perform the advanced tricks, the uber tricks. Here's the interesting part. Performing uber tricks requires inputting specific button combinations. This system is comparable to fighting games. In order to perform a specific move, a specific button combo needs to be used. Like fighting games, memorizing button combinations is really important. The more advanced and long the button combination is, the more rewarding the trick is. I'm still new to this game, so this footage doesn't reflect doing these button combinations very well. Coming from a background of playing SSX games, Tricky Madness feels like a simplified version of the formula. There's fewer movement options, there's less mechanical nuance. However, I don't necessarily think this is a bad thing. Sometimes removing what's not core to the gameplay formula can improve the formula. Here's an example of what I mean. In SSX, you can click a button to grab a grind rail with your rider's hand. The purpose of doing this is to get onto the rail. This mechanic has always felt clunky because your forward momentum is immediately halted. In Tricky Madness, there's no option to grab rails. The mechanic doesn't exist, but instead, to compensate, the game is incredibly generous with allowing you to get onto rails. So a system to get onto rails doesn't exist, but the system no longer needs to exist in the first place. Contrary to what was just said, I will miss some other movement options not present in Tricky Madness. For example, balancing on grind rails. In this game when grinding there's no balancing, you're just magnetized to the rail. This removes the fun little minigame of try not to fall off, as well as the option to intentionally slide off the side of a rail. Another example, pivoting a manual. It's possible to raise one end of the snowboard off the ground, but not possible to spin around while doing so. Tricky Madness has a nice, simplistic, consistent art style. It's probably the most immediately noticeable aspect of the game. The strength of this art style is its readability. Having simple textures means there's very little visual noise. One benefit of this art style is that it's easier to make something styled like this versus going for something more realistic. Speaking of the art style, I have a confession to make. Prior to the Kickstarter for Tricky Madness launching, it was revealed that one of the donation rewards would be to design a snowboard for the game. Being the extremely hyped person that I am, I decided to design one. Get ready? Here it is. I made this owl design because owls are my favorite animal, and it seems fitting as snowboarding takes place in the wilderness. I don't know why I made this in outstandingly large resolution. It's like 10,000 by 7.5 thousand pixels. Anyways, I think it would be a cool design for the bottom of a snowboard. It would probably look something like this. Unfortunately, when the Kickstarter released, it was revealed that the snowboarding design incentive would be the very last, most expensive option. I'm sorry, I'm really hyped for this game, but I'm absolutely not paying $150, $200 in my money for my design to get put into the game. That's just too much. At least on the bright side, I can salvage the hours of work I put into making this design by showing it in this video. That's a positive. Speaking of the Kickstarter, you guys should all check it out. A link is in the video's description. Honestly, I'd love for this Kickstarter's goals to be reached and for this game to eventually materialize into a full-featured, finished product. I see potential in the game, and I think the developer cares enough to do it right. This is just anecdotal evidence, but I gave him a bunch of feedback on the demo, and a few days later he released an updated version with a lot of the features and quality of life suggestions I made. Just look at these patch notes! Right now, if you go to the game's Discord server, you can see there's a back and forth between the developer and the community. To me, it just seems like he wants to make the best possible game he can. Note: I am in no way affiliated with the developer of this game. Do not mistake my hype for a promise that it'll be safe to invest your money towards the Kickstarter. There's always a risk, so practice caution. Weigh the pros and cons for yourself. Please, read the documentation, look at the developer commentary videos, and play the demo for yourself. After you have all the information, then decide if you believe that you should contribute some money towards the Kickstarter. Thanks for watching. Au revoir.